Trump is having a tough time at the moment. His approval ratings are cratering. His MAGA base has been beset by infighting since the infamous interview between Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson a couple of weeks ago. And the Republicans got hammered at the off-year elections earlier this month. However, there's now yet another problem on Trump's plate, and that's AI, which was a remarkably difficult issue for Republicans at this month's election, and has become yet another flashpoint within MAGA. So, in this video, we're going to explain why AI has become a political risk for Trump and why there's no easy way out for him. The TLDDR Black Friday sale is now on. That includes our biggest ever discounts on all products, including our coffee table book, our 2025 calendars, our coloring book, posters starting at $17.99, and much more. Find the full collection at toolong.news or by clicking the link in the description. Offer ends December 3rd, so let's get into it. The main thing to understand is that Americans don't like AI at the moment. According to a Pew Research poll conducted a couple of months ago, 50% of Americans say they are more concerned than excited about AI, with only 10% saying the reverse. Similarly, a 61% majority of Americans also say that they'd like more control over how AI is used in their lives, while only 17% say that they're comfortable with the way AI is currently used. A similar fraction of Americans say that AI poses, quote, high or very high risks to society, far more than the 25% who say that AI presents equivalent benefits. A more recent poll by Edelman conducted in early November found that 49% of Americans say they, quote, reject AI, while only 17% said that they, quote, embrace it. That same poll found that only a third of Americans said they trusted AI, or that it would lift people out of poverty or reduce polarization. Interestingly, the US is far more AI skeptic than other countries. Respondents in China and Brazil were generally pretty optimistic about AI, and while Brits and Germans weren't totally convinced, they were still less AI skeptic than Americans on most measures. Nor does a sudden change of heart seem likely at the moment. To many Americans, AI has gone from a technology that was supposed to cure cancer and make us all rich to a technology that's going to take your job and mainly be used for disinformation and, well, porn. Furthermore, AI is being swept up in a wider revolt against social media and the excesses of the internet more generally, as evidenced by the global decline in social media usage. You get the idea. Americans don't like AI. Now, this wouldn't necessarily present a problem to Trump. After all, Americans don't like cricket, but it's not a politically salient issue. Unfortunately for Trump, in recent months, AI has suddenly become a political risk for him for at least two reasons. First, it's become yet another divide within MAGA. The tech bros and China hawks are obviously very pro-AI, but the more traditionally minded elements of MAGA are very, very anti-A. They see it as unnatural or even immoral and suspect that it will displace even more jobs. Other Republican politicians have already started positioning themselves as anti-AI poles within MAGA. Ron DeSantis, for instance, has come out against the idea of bailouts or subsidies for AI companies and opposed Trump's idea of banning states from regulating AI in favor of a federal framework. It's not just that, though. AI has also become a salient issue for voters across the board and even outside of MAGA. This is in part because there's a widespread sense that AI is already displacing workers, as evidenced by the rising unemployment rate and the especially steep increase in unemployment among new graduates, which is what you'd expect if AI was replacing entry-level jobs in knowledge industries. For context, the unemployment rate for graduates aged 2024 is currently 9.5%, the highest in a decade if you exclude the pandemic. According to data provided by the New York Fed, this means that for essentially the first time in history, young grads are now less likely than your average worker to find employment. But it's also because the data centers required for AI have become big issues in subnational politics. While the actual relationship isn't straightforward, this analysis by The Economist, for instance, found little correlation between data center electricity consumption and rising consumer prices. There's a pretty widespread sense in many states that data centers are using up inordinate amounts of water and electricity at the expense of ordinary Americans. At the off-year elections this month, for instance, many successful candidates ran on platforms opposing further data center construction. In Virginia, which has seen more data center construction than any other state, the Democratic gubernatorial candidates ran on a platform of promising to make data centers pay more for their electricity. And in Georgia, 2 Democrats won seats on the Public Service Commission thanks to campaigns that focused heavily on data centers and rising energy bills. Interestingly, polling has found that data centers are especially unpopular with young people, with about half of under 50 saying that they'd oppose the construction of a data center near them. And this is only expected to become a bigger issue over time. In the US, data center construction is expected to dramatically outrun electricity. This is as much a consequence of the fact that the US is building lots of data centers as it is that the US isn't very good at adding capacity to its electricity grid. China, for instance, is expected to build a similar number of data centers in the coming years. But because China's total electricity generation and grid capacity is expected to grow rapidly, data centers aren't expected to account for more than 2% of all electricity consumption, and therefore won't have much impact on prices. So the point is that people don't like AI or data centers, and things don't look likely to change in the coming years. But what makes this particularly difficult for Trump is that, well, he's all in on AI and he can't really back out. Not only has the Trump administration already announced billions of dollars in AI subsidies and exempted the industry from tariffs, the entire American economy is now precariously reliant on the industry. AI-related investment in data centers alone now accounts for something like 40% of all GDP growth. And AI-related stock gains are propping up consumption by making rich Americans, who are more likely to own stocks, feel richer and therefore spend more money. The US economy is now more reliant than ever on rich consumers, and the top 10% of earners now account for an unprecedented 50% of all spending. This also explains why consumer confidence is down to 2008 levels, but consumption keeps coming in above expectations. The average American is paring back their spending, but rich Americans are splurging. This is why, despite the obvious political risks, Trump can't ditch AI. Any slowdown in the sector would risk pushing the entire American economy into a full-on recession. If you're interested in major news events like this, you'll have certainly been paying attention to what's been happening in the Middle East recently, with the whole region seemingly in a state of flux. That's why the next issue of our magazine, Too Long, is all about that issue with our headline section titled The New Middle East. Plus, this Black Friday, we're running our cheapest price ever, with new subscribers getting their first copy as cheap as $2.99. As I said, this next issue is all about the Middle East, running through each country in the region and discuss their future before reflecting on how recent events have reshaped the Middle East forever. We obviously talk about the Middle East a lot in videos, but this is our most zoomed out, detailed, and thought-through coverage yet, truly outlining how we see this region re-emerging. It's not just that, though. There have also been a lot of major elections this year. So, in this issue, we have a whole section talking about all of the major elections that have taken place this year, and how global politics has changed. China's continued dominance, politics in the UK, and how politicians have hijacked social media. This latest issue is now available for pre-order on our website. And if you subscribe using the code Black Friday at checkout, then you'll get £5 off your first copy, bringing the price down to as low as £2.99. Plus, there's also special subscriber bundles, including our other TLDDR products, which offer even greater value. Anyway, click the link in the description for all of the offers and subscribe the channel AI Unlocked.